Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming here and being part of this very exciting event of Moldova-Romania Capital Bridges. I would like to thank our host, Bucharest Stock Exchange, for making it possible, and I would like to thank our distinguished guests for being here. I would like to thank the panelists. In the next 3 hours or so, we will have an opportunity to discuss Moldova's aspirations to EU, macro development, and real businesses in Moldova. Now I would like to ask Mr. Nicolae Ciucă to welcome us with welcoming speech, Prime Minister of Romania.
Hello and welcome. I am very happy and honored to organize and host this event. Prime Minister, President of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, dear President of the ASF Authority, dear guests. As I said, I'm very happy to participate in this event that consolidates and strengthens the relationship between Romania and the Republic of Moldova and strengthens the bridge that connects us. We share very strong cultural and moral values, but we need to do more in order to develop our relationship. Granting the statute of a candidate nation to joining the European Union is a historical milestone and opens and creates new opportunities of welfare to the citizens from the Republic of Moldova. Along these lines, developing the business relations, promoting investment are essential to strengthening the strategic partnership that we have and that will support the European integration of the Republic of Moldova. Just as I promised, our support to the Republic of Moldova is a tangible one. It is also covered by an agreement that deals with technical and financial assistance, carrying an assistance, a non-reimbursable assistance of 100 million euros that we are extending to the Republic of Moldova. But we are ready to do more. We support Moldova institutionally, economically, and socially in order for Chișinău to meet its commitments to Brussels, and also on a broader line for Moldova's integration in the European family. The current geopolitical and economic context is quite challenging to the economies of our two countries. The war in the Ukraine, the energy crisis, the lack of material and human resources, the disturbances in the supply chains, the galloping inflation are creating a lot of real issues that the business environment is exposed to. Our role is to find viable solutions to these problems in order to consolidate the confidence and trust of the companies and investors in the national economies. That is why it is important to intensify the efforts that we have to do together in order to mitigate the issues that the citizens and the business environment from our two countries are faced with. Romania is Moldova's first and top business partner. And in the year 2021, we've seen an unprecedented value of the bilateral trade exchanges, over 2 billion euros. This year, in the first 5 months, the bilateral trade already exceeded 1.2 billion euros, thereby confirming the accelerated growth trends of the commercial exchanges between our two nations. This is very good, but it's not enough. And we have to make efforts together. We need to send messages across to the business environments from Romania and the Republic of Moldova in order to tap and make the most of the potential of these two economies. Also, the cooperation between the two capital markets of the two countries goes far into the history, and in the context of Moldova's candidacy to the European Union, this cooperation has to get stronger. The access to capital is vital to the development of our two countries. We are ready to support the companies that need access to funding on the stock exchange. The dynamics show us that compared to the year 2006, when Moldova and Romania's stock exchanges signed a cooperation deal, our stock exchange has doubled its capitalization and is now in excess of 40 billion euros. We can share our success with our peers from Chisinau in order to build efficient capital bridges between these two economies. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to make stronger contributions to the development of the Republic of Moldova and to the implementation of projects that can help Moldova get faster into the European family of nations. When the Republic of Moldova becomes a full-fledged member of the European Union, I will be as happy as I was when Romania became a full member of the European Union. So our mission will be complete then, and Romanians and their neighbors from Moldova will be able to enjoy the statute of full members of the European Union. I would like to tell you that I've had several bilateral meetings with my peer from Chisinau. We've had several meetings in Chisinau in February. We talked about tangible actions that we can take together in order to support and help the effort that the Republic of Moldova is going along its way to the EU membership. We established a number of tangible details that are associated to the crisis that we're going through, and of course that we are able and willing to support Moldova with everything that we can, so that the Republic of Moldova can be able to manage fully this situation of crisis. These are actually topics that are discussed by our government every day, because we do want to make every effort in order to secure the gas supplies, the electricity which is needed by both nations, and of course the access to the European market. So these are as many topics that we've covered several times in Bucharest and in Brussels and in Chisinau. We make every effort so that we can share some of our experience with our neighbors from the Republic of Moldova and convince the authorities in Brussels that the Republic of Moldova has to further and continue its efforts in order to become EU members. So we are willing to make every effort, technical efforts, also HR efforts, in order to support Moldova's integration. These are all actions that are subject to review and analysis. In the current context, I'm talking about the conflict in Ukraine and the invasion of the Russian Federation into the Ukraine. This situation generates effects that are also felt in the Republic of Moldova, as in any other nation. So we've talked about everything that's necessary in order to facilitate the cross-border transit from Moldova into Romania and the other way around of people and refugees. We are having talks, and we've created task forces that are trying to identify the solutions, and so we'll make every effort in order to support the authorities and the government of the Republic of Moldova to reassure its citizens that every effort is made so that they can overcome this situation of crisis successfully, and so that they can go also successfully through the winter that is coming. So today's event is a very important event. It is important for strengthening this bridge between our two countries and nations. It's a business bridge. Also, as a liberal, I support this bridge, and I'm willing to make every effort in order to facilitate the commercial and business relations between the two countries and support these relations and expand these relations. In this way, both countries will have access to a business market which should be transparent and easy to access. Every one of you have made their own efforts along these lines, and on behalf of the government, I would like to thank for the support that you've been giving. I would also like to thank to our friends from the Bucharest Stock Exchange for the efforts they've made in order to organize this event and make it happen. And I am also thanking to our foreign guests who've said yes to the invitations and who are here. Thank you very much, and good luck with your event.
Prime Minister, now Mrs. Natalia Gavriliță, Prime Minister of Republic of Moldova.
Hello, everyone. Dear Prime Minister,
stimate domnule Marcu, stimate domnule Hanga, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, de la bun început aș vrea.
Well, from the very beginning, I would like to tell you that it's an honor and pleasure to be here in front of you, talking in front of such a distinguished audience. And I would like to thank the Bucharest Stock Exchange and to the organizers for organizing this forum that the Republic of Moldova is fully supporting. I would also like to thank to the Prime Minister for the warm words that he's been saying in connection to our nation and our citizens. And every time we met and talked about the support that we need, we enjoyed a very prompt reaction and feedback. We've seen tangible support coming from Romania. It's a heartfelt relationship that comes from the bottom of the soul of our neighboring country, and we are very happy to feel that. Well, this week we have a forum which is devoted to the access of Moldovan companies to the international capital. In Chișinău, we have a meeting of the national theaters that involves an outstanding lineup of shows and performances. It will last until the end of September. We're also making some approaches to UNESCO in order to have our own Moldavian shirt approved as an element of the national and international heritage. So these are all elements that we'll be working on together for the benefit of the citizens from both banks of the river Prut. And since I want to reach the hearts and ears of investors, I will switch to English.
It is about building bridges. Bridges between my country and foreign investors, bridges between Moldovan and international businesses, bridges between Moldovan companies and the Romanian and other key capital markets in Europe and beyond. Ever since taking office in August of last year, building bridges has been a key priority for the government of the Republic of Moldova. Perhaps the most important bridge we were able to build is the new level of our relationship with the European Union after we were granted candidate status almost 3 months ago. Having been elected on a strong mandate to restore the rule of law, enhance good governance, encourage economic development, and pave the way towards prosperity, we view European integration as the compass which will help us to deliver upon these absolutely legitimate expectations of our citizens, as well as of companies that are doing business in my country. We have also been keen on building bridges between the government and the private sector. As Prime Minister, it is one of my key priorities to discuss with the representatives of the business community and ensure that their voices are not only heard, but translated into an improved regulatory framework based on a level playing field in which the role of the state is to facilitate economic activity, rather than, as sadly was the case in the past, to hamper initiatives or overburden companies with abusive practices and checks by various institutions. To this end, we are in the process of further simplifying our taxation system, cutting red tape and accelerating the digital transformation, which will simplify the interaction between citizens and companies on the one hand and state institutions on the other hand. In keeping with the title of this event, we are building digital bridges between the public and the private sectors to replace the analog barriers of the past. But we have also been very busy building concrete bridges over the past few months as we strive to mitigate the economic fallout of the unjust war in Ukraine, but also to facilitate economic links between our country and member states of the European Union via Romania. As logistics and transport networks had to adapt to the changing regional environment, we worked closely with our Romanian friends to ensure that existing border infrastructure is consolidated, but also expanded. For example, by building a floating bridge at Leova-Bumbata, but also by preparing a construction of a much-awaited road bridge connecting Ungheni with the Romanian side of the River Prut. Likewise, we have just recently reopened a formerly disused railway line connecting the south of Moldova with the Ukraine. Our efforts are aimed at ensuring that the Republic of Moldova can be a reliable provider of safe and efficient corridors that enable the flow of goods between the region and the rest of the world. It is often said that in every crisis lies an opportunity. Out of the respect for the scale of the human tragedy generated by the war, I would like to avoid framing my approach through this perspective. Yet, as our region has been plunged into uncertainty, it is my duty as well as my firm intention to maintain and strengthen the resilience of the Moldovan economy. And notwithstanding interrupted supply chains, rising inflation, and uncertainties related to energy security, I would like to highlight that we stand on a sound macroeconomic footing. In 2021, our GDP increased by 13.9%, more than any country in Europe. Also, we have a low public debt to GDP ratio. At little over 30%, it has one of the lowest levels in our region, indicating a prudent approach to fiscal policy. Our labor markets reflect recent positive trends. In 2022, the occupation rate increased by 30,000 jobs. We have a stable exchange rate. Over the past 2 decades, our currency has been broadly stable, demonstrating an annualized devaluation versus the euro at below 2% per year. At the same time, our international foreign exchange reserves comprise about 4.2 billion US dollars, which constitutes the equivalent of around 174% in reserve adequacy metrics. Already at the beginning of our mandate, I clearly stated that our transformational agenda is bold. We are fully aware that we cannot afford to aim only for a modest growth level in the low single digits, as is the case of many developed markets. In order to reach average EU levels of GDP per capita during a generation, the economy must grow at a stronger pace, high single digits or even double digits, seeking to at least double our real GDP every decade. We understand that with a smaller domestic market, we have to build an open, innovative economy that can also serve as an exporting platform for investors. We have attractive opportunities in the fields such as IT, business process outsourcing, green energy, e-commerce, or research and development. And you may be surprised that we also boast a thriving automotive industry. Non-existent some 20 years ago, now it is the largest exporting segment of our country. We have a competitive and well-capitalized banking sector, with credit supply to the economy having improved dramatically, yet still at relatively low levels. Domestic credit as share of the GDP stands at around 25%, a third of the level of a country like Georgia, for instance. This shows us that there is still great potential to tap into. The absence of an active financial and capital market in Moldova is hindering the growth and attractiveness of Moldovan companies. Therefore, the actual financing gap of Moldovan enterprises keeps growing over the years. According to a PwC report in 2021, the financing needs of SMEs, for example, was more than 5% of GDP, or $600 million US. Consequently, one of the priorities of the current government is to develop the domestic capital market, launch new financial instruments, and enhance access to international financial markets. We are certain that the Bucharest Stock Exchange and the Financial Supervision Authority are able to offer their expertise and support to the Moldovan Stock Exchange and the National Financial Markets Commission to develop the domestic market and boost the liquidity on the secondary market for existing equity and government bonds. On financial instruments, we have launched municipal bonds and are planning to release a platform for retail government bonds with the support of the US Agency for International Development. Nonetheless, we would like to learn from the Bucharest Stock Exchange and the Financial Supervision Authority how to boost the attractiveness of corporate bond issuance and eventually convertible bonds for Moldovan companies, and why not for companies in the government sector as well. Also, we would be interested in understanding how to develop an equivalent aero platform for SME equity financing, or access it directly. Furthermore, the current government is making significant efforts to enlarge the access to the international financial market. We are working on improving our credit rating and plan to hire a second credit rating agency in the near future. During my last visit to London back in December, we explored the opportunity to launch the first sovereign Eurobonds once we define our investment projects that we want to finance via this method. At the same time, we support the effort of Moldovan enterprises to list on international stock exchanges. In a nutshell, we need a more active capital market and international investments. However, we do understand that a proper capital market needs professional market participants, such as pension funds and insurance funds. Hence, I would like to invite the Romanian pension funds to consider launching private pension products and offer access to investments into international financial markets to Moldovan citizens. I would also like to avail myself of this opportunity to highlight the role of the Romanian capital market as a natural gateway for Moldovan businesses to access equity and bond financing. It is remarkable to see the traction the Bucharest Stock Exchange has achieved, with some 45 bond issuances and 23 equity issuances in 2021, including SMEs via the Aero platform. This means an average of more than one new listing per week. With over 30 billion euros in combined market cap for local companies listed at the Bucharest Stock Exchange, it has clearly proven its potential to become a regional financing hub, including for Moldovan companies seeking growth capital. We know that to some companies, the Moldovan market may seem too small to justify an investment. However, given the linguistic and cultural proximity to Romania, many Moldovan companies that treat the Romanian market as an extension of their domestic market. This is the reason Romania is by far the largest export market for our businesses. So, when you consider opting for Moldova, think of it not just as a small market of less than 3 million, but rather as an access point to a combined market of more than 20 million potential consumers.
I think, Mr. Prime Minister Ciucă, that we totally agree that the development of the relationships through the stock exchange from Bucharest and through the access of the Moldovan companies to the international capital will be for the benefit of the citizens on both sides of Prut River, and will stand for a unique, attractive market for investors.
The Republic of Moldova has firmly and irreversibly made its choice to be part of the free world. As we embark upon our journey towards becoming a full member of the European family, we are open for business for all those willing to explore the exciting opportunities my country has to offer. My government and I fully committed to building and encouraging further bridges for investors interested in shaping the course of Moldovan history over the following years and decades. And we are equally supportive of Moldovan companies looking to expand their horizons abroad and access markets that previously seemed out of reach. I would also like to once again underscore that my pledge to maintain bridges between the Moldovan government and the private sector lies at the heart of our economic policy. We are interested in your proposals as we strive to improve our investment climate as well as our legal and regulatory framework. So please always feel free to engage with us if you feel that there is something that we can do better. I am sure that already during this forum, whether in the upcoming panel sessions or on the sidelines, there will be opportunities to dwell upon investment opportunities and necessary improvements to governance. Earlier in the day, I had a great meeting with AmCham. I had engaged with Concordia on previous occasions, and we look forward to further opportunities to discuss about the regulatory changes that could make Moldova more attractive for investors. Once again, let me thank the organizers of this event, and I would like to express my hope that the plans voiced today will become the business of tomorrow. Thank you very much for your attention. Vă mulțumesc mult!
Thank you, Mrs. Prime Minister, for a very insightful overview. Now we have Mrs. Odile Renaud-Basso, the President of European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, addressing the audience online.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to speak today about Moldova, a country that we at the EBRD know very well. The war on Ukraine has created huge challenges across the region. Companies and countries have been working to get to grips with them. And the EBRD has been there to help with its €2 billion resilience and livelihoods framework. For example, to enhance Moldova's energy security, in June we lent €300 million to help the country acquire strategic gas reserves from European Union hubs. One very positive recent development has been the decision to admit Moldova as a candidate for EU membership. This gives impetus to the reform efforts already underway, launched by today's strongly pro-European government. As Moldova's largest institutional investor, we have been active in pushing for reforms for many years. Indeed, the EBRD has played a major role in turning the banking sector around since the 2014 crisis. Significant progress has been made in that area. One such example is MAIB, who will be presenting today. The bank is now undertaking a large transformation to prepare for its listing on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. We at the EBRD warmly welcome this initiative, and we hope it will serve as an example for other Moldovan companies in need of access to capital markets to finance growth. MAIB is strongly committed to the highest standards of corporate governance and has a very well qualified, diverse supervisory board. Overall, Moldova and its banking sector have held up very well under the pressure of recent events. And despite the shadows thrown across the European continent by the war, the outlook for Moldova is full of hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nicu Marcu, President of ASF.
Excelența voastră,
Your
doamnă ministru, Excelența voastră, domnule prim-ministru, domnule președinte al Bursei de Valori București, doamnelor și domnilor, în urmă cu
2 years ago, I think, we were thinking that Romania could be a regional hub for the capital market. That was a challenge, and at the same time, we were skeptical that we could get to this point. But what's happening, what has happened over the past 2 years in the capital market makes us think that there is a chance to get to the point that we were thinking of a few years ago. The stock exchange, the management of the stock exchange surprises us continuously, and we were saying some time ago that over the past year, more than 20 companies listed on the stock exchange from Bucharest now. And steps are being taken to list a company from Moldova, the second one, a big company, one of the biggest banks from the Republic of Moldova. So this thing gives us reasons to trust that our objectives, and I say us, that because the objectives of the financial authority are common. Mr. President knows this. Our general manager also knows this, because for some time we have been working together, and because we want to operate all the central part. That is a second important objective that the stock exchange and the capital market has. Please allow me to congratulate. And even if we are the authority for financial supervision, we cannot not do this to recognize their merits, because many efforts have been made during all these years to get to this moment, and to say that, as Mrs. Prime Minister was said, to be a regional organization that should represent the capital market. Let's hope that in the future other companies will come, because this is an example to follow. In this respect, I would like to tell you, in support of these things, that the Authority for Financial Supervision for some time started the approaches to talk with the companies from the Moldova, with the National Bank from Moldova, with the Authority of Supervision of the Capital Market, our colleagues from the Capital Market are in Romania. They are at the authority. We were surprised to see that they did their homework and they started to work. And my colleagues said that we already are working. And today, they told me this because it won't be easy, but it's our duty to find all the solutions to do in order to harmonize the legislation from Moldova with the Romanian legislations, the legislation so that this big bank, MAIP, to be listed in a very short period of time on the stock exchange. I was saying that the authority is taking steps in order to harmonize the legislation on the area of insurances. And in this respect, I want to tell you that there is a twinning project that ASFE, together with the National Bank of Romania and with the Authority for the Protection of the Consumer, together also with the National Bank from Moldova and with other two states, the Netherlands and Slovenia, I think, participate in this twinning project. We want to harmonize the legislation in the insurance sector so that the Republic of Moldova to be able to adapt their legislation as fast as possible to the European legislation. So in this respect, as a novelty, I want to tell you that in the next period, Mr. Governor of the National Bank from Moldova is coming to the Authority of Financial Supervision to set all the terms that we have to follow so that we conclude this process as fast as possible. And also, let's hope that in terms of the role of the authority, of our authority, in the relationships with the Republic of Moldova, with our partners from the Republic of Moldova, will be an effective role. And at the same time, let's hope we will have the results that we have in mind. I don't want to go into too many technical details. I want to congratulate personally Radu Hanga because together with his colleagues, he informed us on all the steps they have been done. I transmitted to him that as authority, even if our role is only as a supervisory one, and to authorize and to regulate the capital markets, we are close to the stock exchange because we want to develop, as Mr. Prime Minister said earlier, the role of the stock exchange needs to be a prevalent one in Romania. We need to get to the point where we are aware of the fact that the source of financing or the biggest source of financing for the Romanian companies comes from the stock exchange market, a thing that is felt quite shy in this moment. I'd like to stop here, and I want to congratulate once again also the bank because they accepted to be listed on the stock exchange from Bucharest, and to wish you all good luck in the works of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Radu Hanga, the chairman of Bucharest Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Gheorghe. Stimată doamnă.
Dear Mrs. Prime Minister, dear Mr. Prime Minister, dear Mr. President of the Authority for Financial Supervision, dear friends, 15 minutes ago I didn't have any emotions, but now I have them because we are now in a context where people build bridges and we want to build some other bridges between Romania and the Republic of Moldova. I'm thinking that my colleagues from the board who are here in the meeting, the colleagues from the executive team of the stock exchange, feel exactly as I feel now, hearing Mr. Prime Minister of Romania, Mr. Prime Minister and the National Authority of Financial Supervision, talking about what we succeed to do here. I would like to refer to what you were saying, Mrs. Prime Minister, about the fact that the capital market in Moldova is not so much developed. This is a story that wherever you go to the center or the east of Europe, every market of the region talks about it, considering itself not developed one. I think that also us in our small circle, when we talk between us, we say that there are many steps to take from now on. My father says that the history is not ended, which means that us, the people, institutions, we are in a developing process, and probably the most boring thing is the moment when you got the conclusion that you are perfect, that you've done everything you could do, and now you have to go home. So until that moment, when we look into the mirror and when we say to ourselves that there are things that we can do, I think that's good. Coming back to the things that I've put down here, we are honored to co-organize this event together with Moldova Agro in the bank. An event that wants to create bridges between the markets from Romania and Moldova. Practically, this creates opportunities, financing opportunities and development opportunities for the Romanian companies and for the Moldovan companies. We strongly believe, and we recently had a visit in the Republic of Moldova to send our message. We strongly believe that, yes, we learned some things here in Romania. We did some things. Even if we continue to learn, we know that we developed systems that can help to develop the capital market from Moldova. And I liked Mrs. Prime Minister because you talked about Aero market, the market that is looking to us that are a smaller stage of development.
Each market needs a certain status, so to speak. Companies are never born big. So it's difficult to be born number one or a market leader. Any company needs to be able to grow up. We have some peculiarities in this area because 30 years ago we changed the regime. The state-owned companies became private companies. But in a normal world, in the other countries, all companies need to go through some phases, and some of these phases involve funding and visibility. So basically, we need ladders that local companies can use in order to grow. So the Bucharest Stock Exchange can provide some help to the companies that are listed on the Chisinau Stock Exchange in order for them to grow. So we are able to do that. We have our own expertise in this area, as I already said. It's an example of Purcari, a company listed in 2018. It raised 40 million euros, is one of the most visible companies on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. It's a company that teaches us that the stock exchange is not about funding alone. So we invest in the listed companies. We put our money in companies like the one called Purcari. We see their products on the shelves of the stores in Romania and the Republic of Moldova. So this is how the company gets improved. The company gets this company a visibility, but it also benefits of a different sort of relationship with its customers. So the stock exchange is not only about the capital, it's also about the visibility and communication. So it's important whatever we do, also whatever the Chisinau Stock Exchange does is also important for the international and local market. Now, getting back to today's topic, well, Georgi we are very happy that your bank looks at our stock exchange as an option for its development. We are here to help you develop. You are different from Purcari because, you know, when this process is over, this company will be dually listed. So we are happy to take this step, and we expect other companies from Moldova to look at and explore the cooperation opportunities that the Bucharest Stock Exchange can provide to them. I would have liked to talk about the FTSE, about our access to the FTSE indexes as an emerging market, but this topic has already been tackled. A company's greatest achievement is to hear guests talking about you. So I'm thanking you once again. I'm wishing you the best of luck, and I'm also thanking you for being here today. Thank you.
So this completes our first part, the opening speeches, and we can thank our distinguished guests once again for this. We are on time now. The good news is that there is no risk to reschedule the Purcari wine tasting by 6 o'clock. Now we will have fire chat with the Prime Minister of Moldova, Mrs. Natalia Gavrilița, moderated by Mrs. Rafaela Tenconi, Senior Economist, Woods & Company. Thank you again.
Bună ziua, Daniela Șerban sunt și în numele organizatorilor doresc.
Hello, my name is Daniela Șerban. We have interpreters. If somebody needs interpreting from English into Romanian, please tell us, and somebody will provide you with a receiver and earphones so that you can hear the interpreting into Romanian. So from now on, all discussions will be held in English.
Great. Madam Prime Minister, it's an honor to be the one asking you all of the questions. I have been an economist for 20 years for the sell side, and I think the most important lesson I've learned is that really the development of a country is so much about the vision of the leader and how well those are communicated. So I would like to take this opportunity to really go into the details of the very good overview that you gave us before, and to bring it down also to a short, medium, and long-term map, so that all types of investors can really kind of understand Moldova and play it at best. So, you have just recently completed your first year as Prime Minister, and you have been a civil servant for a long time. Some of the achievements of Moldova you have already mentioned. The increase in per capita income is astonishing. The low financial stability risks that you've managed are incredible, especially given the energy issues that you've faced last year. So let's start by asking you, what is your expectation for the next 12 to 15 months for your country?
Is this on? Yes. Hi again. It is very difficult to talk about the next 12-15 months. We all know that we are facing extraordinary uncertainty in this part of the world, and we are really affected by the energy crisis, the energy prices, the fallout of the unjust war in Ukraine, the disruption of the logistics chains, and of course rising inflation and cost of living. So in this period, what we are doing is basically combining managing the crisis, the multiple and overlapping crises, with addressing the long-standing developmental needs of Moldova. So on one hand, We are dealing with the energy crisis. We're preparing different scenarios for the winter, if we have a lower level of supply or if we have an interruption of supply. We are thinking about actions of the government to compensate for the increase in the living costs. We are thinking of instruments for the private sector to maintain jobs, to keep afloat. But at the same time, we are not forgetting about justice reform, about combating corruption, about better regulations for small and medium enterprises, about long-term financing instruments, about events like this. In a sense, and there was a talk about Purcari, and I want to give you this perspective. When we first faced the wine embargoes, when we couldn't sell the Moldovan wine to the Russian Federation, we saw a decrease in growth, we saw an impact on the economy, an impact on jobs, but at the same time, this really made the industry become creative, become resilient, concentrate on quality, concentrate on markets. And what we have now is, wines that win the most prizes in international competitions. This year we had the gold medal for best red wine in the world. And we also have, beautiful places for internal tourism and for international tourism. So when I talk to businessmen in the country and to investors, what I say is, yes, there is uncertainty. Yes, we will pay the consequences of what we're seeing now. But at the same time, we are working to lay the foundation for resilience and growth in the future. I want to look back 5 years from now and say, it was very difficult at the time, but we did put the country on the stable path towards the European Union and the European quality of life and the values that we aspire to.
So embrace the difficulty to be stronger seems to be the ethos. That's perfect. So walk us through a little bit the EU membership journey. How many people do you have working on it? How long do you think realistically it will take? I think everybody knows it's not quick, but at least what is your expectations and maybe what are kind of the key milestones or meetings that we can look forward to?
Again, I will use the fact that I am a politician and start with a narrative and a story. So 20 years ago, I remember in my first job when there was discussion about Moldova's accession to the European Union as part of the Central European states and the Balkan states. And at that time, we missed the window of opportunity. And I remember discussions that we don't know when history will turn and another moment of opportunity will arise. And what I can say is that, nobody thought, think about it, just 4 or 5 months ago, nobody thought that Moldova could jump, several steps, leapfrog, and become a candidate country. A window of opportunity opened, the history presented, this, terrible tragedy, which actually led to us becoming candidate country to the European Union. So, first of all, I'm very glad that we didn't miss this moment in history. And, of course, what we are doing is trying to hurry while we're dealing with all these crises. So, our main problem is limited state capability. So, we have designed a mechanism where we will create the working groups for 35 chapters of negotiations, and we will start doing our homework. It will take a long time, we understand this, but we will do everything possible to hasten it. So we've created the position of State Secretary for European Affairs in ministries. We have adopted legislation to reform the policy units and make them responsible not only for policy but European integration. We are giving a top-up to civil servants who will be involved in the work on the European agenda and the negotiations on accession. And most importantly, we are working on quickly addressing those conditionalities that the Commission has pointed out as improvements to be made before actual accession negotiations start. And I'm talking here, first of all, about justice reform. We just recently had a discussion with my colleagues in Parliament, and we have a plan to submit 23 different legislative initiatives in the justice sector in the next 3 months. So we're talking here about, we are doing the external evaluation of judges and prosecutors in the Superior Council of Magistrates and the Superior Council of Prosecutors. We are looking at improving the distribution of competences between the different institutions. We are looking at creating stronger anti-corruption mechanisms. As you may know, we had a very impressive appointment of an anti-corruption prosecutor who is a Moldovan member of the diaspora. So she is a US federal prosecutor and decided to come back and contribute to the development of the country. So she comes with a lot of credibility and a very good reputation and a vision on how, where the system should go. So we will be working hard on this legislation. We will be continuing our work on combating corruption, on deregulation, removing opportunities for corruption and rents. We will be designing a new salary system. We will be looking at administrative reform. So we are, in a sense, we are in a race with time. So we want to make sure that in this historic window of opportunity, we actually are able to open negotiations as well.
You think that, because as you said, the scale of the task is enormous, right? But would it be reasonable to say that to some extent you already benefit from financial support of the EU, and the more steps you show, the more that financing can come through, so that people don't get lost in the race? They can see that it's an incremental step forward.
Indeed, we do get assistance from the European Union as an Eastern Partnership country. Of course, when we are faced with such dramatic crisis and such an increase in inflation and especially in prices for energy resources, we need more support. So we definitely need more financing for 2023. At the same time, the support that we have received has helped us in the crisis of last year. We have provided compensations to the most vulnerable. We are now working on a targeted energy vulnerability mechanism that will allow us to help those most in need. This support has allowed us to at least partly compensate for the loss in real wages or in purchasing power. So we will continue to count on our friends. We're very grateful to the Romanian government, which is one of the initiators of the Moldova support platform alongside with France and Germany. And we will definitely continue discussing these issues during the next meeting, which will take place in November in Paris.
Thank you. And maybe I'll ask a last question, but it's a big topic. Of course, on inflation, this is a big theme. Your inflation rate is high, absolutely, but you've also been hit by a disproportionately large shock. And it's also, we live in an age where inflation is a big problem for everyone. So give us your overall strategy on how to deal with inflation. I mean, some of it certainly has to do with mitigating the effects fiscally. But tell us about your expectation on the central bank, your views on the exchange rate, productivity. Give us maybe what you think is the key in all of this fight.
Indeed, inflation is very high. Last month, inflation exceeded 34% already. The rate of acceleration has decreased, so it's not growing as fast as it was in the previous months. At the same time, a big part of this inflation depends on what will happen to energy prices. And this is a very big concern. At the same time, of course, we are seeing increase in food prices, and because this is a much larger proportion of a household's consumption than in developed countries, this actually shows up in disproportionately high inflation. But the National Bank is actually the institution that is responsible for inflation targeting. It's subordinated to the parliament. It's an independent institution, and it has taken action to increase the base rate and moderate inflation through aggressive sort of increase in the base rate. This, of course, puts more pressure on the government, so we have to have an expansionary fiscal policy and think about those groups and those people that need to be supported under these circumstances, particularly given the limitations of the financial market that we have already talked about. So what we are doing is, on one hand, sort of growing salaries and moderately, and also providing sort of one-time support to help people through the winter. We are working on these targeted compensation mechanisms. So we have a targeted social assistance program, we have a winter program, and now we are adding this energy vulnerability program that will look both at income and consumption and categorize households based on this. We are also, as many countries actually, intervening more than we would like to, given that we are a center-right party. So, for example, we have expanded the number of products that are considered socially important and have a limited commercial add-on, or limited, all types of sort of additional payments are limited. We are discussing with various stakeholders and negotiating basically on what we can do under these circumstances. So, for example, we have taken quite significant efforts to discuss, even with the authorities of the Transnistrian region, first of all, to keep peace and stability, but also to keep the price of electricity low. Even though this means that we are negotiating every month and we don't have sustainability, but for the last 6 months or so, we have managed to keep electricity prices stable, and this has helped to not increase inflation as much. So we will continue basically acting and intervening both through our emergency mechanism and through our regular policies to make sure that we support the most vulnerable, we support those businesses that are under strain and need, for example, capital to maintain jobs. We have introduced furlough schemes, which we did not have before, even during the COVID times. So we will use all these instruments available to us to make sure that on the one hand, we don't allow we don't allow inflation to sort of reach a spiral, but at the same time, keep as much as possible the vulnerable supported by the state.
Thank you. So it seems that you are really trying to manage all of these conflicting forces to give time for the country to manage this difficult path, but I think we can all see that the outlook is very bright. You have a very compelling convergence path ahead of you and a compelling desire to integrate well in the international financial market. So we wish you well, and we're looking forward to see the next episodes.
Thank you very much. And let's think medium and long term, and then that will provide an optimistic view.
We would like to invite you to the next panel at 15:30. Until then, it's a 10 minutes break. Thank you. I'd like to continue the dialogue on Romanian Moldavian capital bridges. And I would like to invite on the stage Mrs. Mariana Rufa, CEO of European Business Association Moldova. Please applause for her.
Your Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, honorable audience, we'd like to welcome you at the first panel, Moldova newest EU candidate country, accession roadmap. Allow me to introduce our distinguished speakers at today's panel. First of all, I'd like to welcome His Excellency Mr. Yanis Mazeiks, EU Ambassador of the Republic of Moldova, who will connect with us online. I'd like to invite to the panel, to the scene, Mr. Dumitru Alaiba, Chairman of the Parliamentary Commission, Economy and Budget and Finance of the Parliament of the Republic of Moldova. And I'd like to invite Mr. Vytautas Plunksnis, EU investor in the region, Invalda, Head of Private Equity. Thank you so much. My name is Mariana Rufa, and I have the distinguished pleasure and honor to moderate today's panel. And I can promise you that we will have insightful and very interesting discussions. Honorable audience, since 2014, the Republic of Moldova committed for the EU integration agenda, which implies political objectives, but also economic growth objectives. Since 2014, since the association agreement and the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement was signed, that was as a catalyzer for the economic growth in the Republic of Moldova. As such, the volume of exports of the Moldovan products onto the EU market has doubled, increasing a top figure in 2021 of approximately 2 billion USD. The number of exporting companies doubled, and the number of companies supported by the European Union went over 20,000, creating roughly 12,000 jobs. That means that European Union is the most important and a strategic partner for the Republic of Moldova. Recently, Moldova obtained the status of EU candidate country, which commits the country for even more reforms, even more actions, and even more sound business climate. And in this context, allow me, distinguished guests, to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Yanis Mazeiks, European Union Ambassador in the Republic of Moldova. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Good evening, good afternoon rather. So perhaps the most important question today is, what does this new candidate country status mean for the Republic of Moldova? Before I start answering, I would just say that I think this is a really historical achievement for the country, because indeed this is not something that one could have expected even a year ago. So I think this is Moldova's big chance. But if I have to sum up what the candidate country status means, I think it means two things: hard work and big reward. If we look at the hard work, then first that I have to say is that it is immediate, because the government had to start working for it even before this status was received. So all the spring the government was working. But it means that in the coming months and years, the government will have to do even more, in particular in the 9 areas that were identified by the European Commission as the key areas that are necessary for starting negotiations. And secondly, it is also about transposing the European Union acquis, so the body of the EU legislation in Moldova. And last but not least, if we look at the very big picture, then it is about preparing the country for EU membership, which obviously and evidently is a very big job. If I look at the big reward, then first I would highlight the membership as the ultimate goal in this stage, because once the Republic of Moldova becomes a EU member state, of course it has benefits that it can't obtain neither as a candidate country nor as a cooperation partner for the European Union. Second, I would argue that it brings benefits already in the process of moving towards European Union membership. First, you are seen, or Republic of Moldova is seen as part of the European family. And of course, if a country is in a problematic situation, as Republic of Moldova is facing numerous crises, there is one level of support you provide to a country, and you provide another level of support to a country that you see as a part of the family. And I think the past months have shown that the EU perceives the Republic of Moldova as part of the family. Third point, it is about cleaning up the country. So again, this is not something that is imposed from the outside, but I think that what is in the interest of the citizens of the Republic of Moldova, irrespective of what they do. And finally, from a business perspective, let us recall that 2/3 of Moldovan exports are already towards EU member states. 80% of investors in the Republic of Moldova are from the EU member states. So having this candidate status, from my perspective, is yet another incentive for investors as well, because it means that if you're investing in the Republic of Moldova, you are investing in a future EU member state, which means that you will be working in a transparent way, in a predictable way, with the same standards that the European Union applies, and with access to the European Union markets. So this would be my answer to the question: what does this new candidate country status bring to the Republic of Moldova?
Your Excellency, thank you so much for your answer. I think that we will get back to you very soon for the second round of questions. But until then, I'd like to ask Mr. Leiber, who is the chairman of the Parliamentary Commission for Economy, Budget and Finance. What are the economic benefits of the EU candidacy status, Mr. Leiber, considering that we are speaking about an intense agenda of reforms, intense agenda of commitments, and most of these reforms have to actually catalyze economic growth, a better business climate, and to increase the appetite for the foreign investors.
Yes, it works. Thank you so much, Mariana. And well, before I start, once again, congratulations for this very successful event, and thank you for putting Moldova once again on a map here in Bucharest. Everyone who was involved, Maib, congratulations. Now, I mean, the economic benefits of the EU candidate, I mean, we can speak a lot about it. But how about we do an exercise and make a bit of a reverse overview, and just see the benefits that were brought by the association agreement and DCFTA. The effect of Moldova signing the association agreement was transformational, and this is one of the examples that I always use when I want to exemplify that Moldova can change and can change fast if the right incentives are in place, if the right people are in place, and if the right vision is there. So with the association agreement, with the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement, Moldova's economy has transformed. It has fully reoriented. Of course, it's not only that. Of course, we had help from our so-called friends in the East with multiple embargoes and so on. But I mean, you can call it, you can also look at it as a reaction to our choices. Nevertheless, Moldova has moved ahead. Moldova has made progress, and right now, as you rightly said, almost 70% of our exports are to the European Union. This compared to not even some 15 years ago, where around 65% were going to the CIS. This is a huge change. Maybe we should pause and appreciate this more often. But Moldova can change, and Moldova can change fast, and this is one of the examples. Investors, the way we know them, of course, they don't think in terms of couple of years. They think in decades, if they are strategic, big investors. And for them, it's important to see the signals of promoting reforms, which we are of course committed to, fighting corruption, building an independent justice system, deregulation, setting in place the right incentives. But more than that, this process is, you could say, never-ending, because even countries that are at the forefront of this process, they're still permanently improving. They're still permanently looking for ways to do it cheaper, faster, easier, more friendly for the business. So this is a process that will never end. Once you finish a reform, you start all over in order to be critical of what you did yesterday and to continue improving. But more importantly, for the investors that we want to attract is the direction that the country is taking in the long term, the direction that the country is headed to, with all the problems that are going to emerge and are going to be there no matter what. It's important to have this, and this is why the status of EU candidate is a very strong signal about where this country will be in 10 or 20 years. And it's only about delivering every day and every year in order to show that that we are serious about it, and we are serious about it. And maybe just as a small conclusion, the title of the panel is Moldova, the newest candidate country. I cannot wait to have in some years from now, a panel about Moldova, the newest EU member, and we will get there together.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Leiber, with this positive initiative and this positive declaration, which is extremely imperative for the Republic of Moldova. Okay, what would be the economic benefits of a candidate country from an investor point of view, Mr. Plusnis?
I'm coming from a country very similar to Moldova, Lithuania, which has slightly less than 3 million people. So I can tell on our country's example, because we witnessed it all. So when we joined the European Union, Lithuania's GDP per capita was 50% of current EU 27 average, and today we are slightly less than 90% of European average, and we are richer than many countries which people think that are rich. So basically, getting into EU means that the quality of life of every citizen will improve. And for the investors, it means that they will earn huge profits.
Very brief and extremely concise and informative. Thank you so much, Mr. Plusnis. Indeed, in order to get to this point, it is absolutely imperative to implement, not only to devise, I reiterate this, but also to implement the necessary reforms that would actually lead to the point that you are very exactly defining. And in this regard, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, allow me to get back to His Excellency, Mr. Yanis Mazeks, to address actually the next question about the current challenges Moldovan economy is facing in the context of the EU candidate country, considering that a couple of them have already been very clearly tackled within the discussion, with the previous discussion with Prime Minister. Mr. Mazeks.
Yes, thank you very much. I would highlight three challenges of very different nature. The first is energy, The second is human resources, and the third one is time. And I'm not speaking just about the economy, I'm just thinking about the country as a whole, on the challenges that it will face as a candidate country. So first, the very immediate challenge of energy. The issue is that for a very long time, unfortunately, Moldova did not do much, if anything, on increasing its energy independence. And the result, there are few good options and very little time to act on them. What is good that it has been, and it is the government's priority. Literally this morning, we signed an agreement with 15 million euro grant from the European Union to enhance the energy efficiency of public buildings in the Republic of Moldova. But that is the reality, and this is, in the short term, going to be the big challenge for Republic of Moldova on how to deal with energy, and in particular with the gas situation. Second challenge is the human resources, because to carry out reforms to make the economy stronger, the country needs people. And sadly, the reality has been that there has been out migration from the country, which has diminished the resource pool that is available for both for reforms and for the economy. So I think one of the key challenges for the government and for the country will be both how to attract diaspora towards these reform processes, and also how to involve other resources, like, for instance, attracting young professionals who have just graduated. And we are working together with the government also in this direction to attract young people to the civil service to then be able to implement those reforms. And finally, the longer term challenge is time, because the candidate country status is there for a while. Even with the best of wishes of the government, with all the commitment and hard work, changes is not possible overnight. Some of the changes that have been identified by the European Commission will take years, because to clean up the judiciary, to clean up corruption, you need time to do it properly. And I think this is, in the longer term, one of the big challenges of how to maintain this European vector of the development of the country, so that it is not just about the current parliament, current government, but this is seen by the population as a consensus wish that needs to be upheld through the time, and that the country does not zigzag back and forth in different orientations and development patterns, but maintains this steady course of European integration that it has embarked now for the past several years.
Mr. Leiba, I'd like to address you the same question, but also mentioning that besides challenges, the Republic of Moldova has indeed embarked on this very intense reform agenda, and has managed to prove that where you have the political will, where you have the involvement and the expertise of the private sector reform, but the most important of the political leadership of the country, the reform is possible, and we've managed to promote a series of so much important reforms in the financial banking sector, in the foreign trade, in the customs area, and so on. What are still the challenges, and what do you plan to do next in this regard? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Just because we're in government, I don't have to be always happy about the state of things. Moldova is still one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. Now, it's not the advantage is that we don't have oligarchs running the country and calling the shots, but corruption is still there, and this is the way our people think, and this is the way Moldova looks inside and outside of its borders. This is one serious problem that we have to yet solve. This is affecting the economy, this is affecting the relations between people, this is affecting trust, which is the cornerstone in an economy. This is affecting the way investors perceive Moldova. So there is a lot of work still to be done there. I won't go through all of the anti-corruption reform agenda. It's very wide, transparency, digitalization, cutting red tape, and massive deregulation, which it's been dragging for years, and so on and so on and so on. We have a lot of laws to repair. We have a lot of legislation to just draft anew and just throw out whatever is there now. This is the, besides the ones listed, this is one serious area that we still have to focus on. Now, of course, if come a bit closer to the to the investment climate, there are punctual reforms that we are undertaking and we are preparing when it comes to financial market, banking and non-banking. We have pushed legislation that has been there for years. That was just not moving. Trade, we have a new customs code. This is huge for the economy. I won't bring all the other examples, all the digitalization. We've moved in 1 year that we are in government. We've taken some very courageous. I'm sorry if I'm maybe not too modest now. I started with a critique. Now I can be a bit immodest. But we have moved certain subjects that haven't been even. It was unimaginable 1 year ago to just in a few packages of legislation to push so many, to put so many unlocks, as I call them, and so on and so on. There is a lot of appetite for reform in this government, and I will agree with Ambassador. The challenge is time. There is a lot to focus on, and unfortunately, the time is working very often against us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laiba. Mr. Plunsnis, again, the same question from the European investor point of view, and maybe you would give us some lessons, some practical examples from the Lithuanian accession period in the context of how we can fight these challenges.
For Lithuania, the road was quite long, so it took almost 10 years after submitting our application and getting the membership. And key lesson is to stay the course, because if you fight corruption, then those corrupt people will be not happy, and they will try to make the appearance that the reforms they are not good. And for example, with this energy crisis and inflation, so it's very obvious that this inflation is caused by one criminal country which started the war. And but for the government, it's very big job to explain to the people why those costs are rising, and because it's very easy to create the narrative. Okay, we became a candidate country and my heating bill is this big. So if you stay the course, if you implement the best practices, because you now are one phone call or one email away from any country, and you can take all the best examples. Of course, for Moldova, I think it's very important to have this very tight and close connection to Romania. In the Baltics, we had Scandinavian countries acting as big brothers or sponsors of our reforms, and how our businesses started to thrive when Scandinavian companies started to write in their annual reports that it's our home market, Baltics. And what investors need is stability, and also my wish for the government would be that don't do those overnight reforms. just for the sake of changing, hundreds of laws. So consult with the businesses, with the public community what it means. Because if as an investor you wake up one day, and usually it happens somehow in all the countries before New Year, you wake and from January 1st, completely new environment. So all the reforms should be very well thought, and you have unique opportunity to take best practices from any EU country.
Thank you very much for this direct answer, Mr. Plunsnis. Actually, indeed, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, over this week, the Republic of Moldova is hosting the biggest business event of the year. And we truly hope that many of you will honor and will come to this extremely interesting and informative event. And one of the key panel, very important panel that will be also attended by the biggest business associations in the Republic of Moldova, European Business Association that I have the honor to represent today, our colleagues from American Chamber, our colleagues from Foreign Investors Association, as well as the Prime Minister Economic Council, and we have our colleagues today here with the representatives of the governments, shows once again how committed the Republic of Moldova is for this extremely challenging reform agenda. However, I'm sure that there are certain messages to be changed and suggested from the business community to the government and from the government to the business community. So, Mr. Leiber, what would be the messages that you would suggest for the business community under this EU integration agenda? What would be your expectations, and how do you see this bridge in communication and cooperation?
My message to the business community, well, I guess it's about change, because the speed with which we will become members of the EU depends a lot on the speed with which we are willing to accept and embrace change. And that's relevant for each individual, for each organization, for each business, investment, and so on and so on. So, of course, these changes, there are people who will make sure that these changes are positive in a way, to the best possible. But my point is that there is reform coming. There is reform that is ultimately beneficial for the country as a whole.
Thank you very much, Dumitru. Mr. Plunsnis, we have the occasion to address Moldovan government even today, considering the so rich and varied presence. What would be your expectations as an investor from the Republic of Moldova, considering your interest for investments in Moldova?
So one important thing, and we heard this message from today's participant, is digitalization. Because as a foreign investor, you want to have all the information in one place in English. And yes, we respect Romanian language, but we cannot speak. And when you're thinking how the country works, it's very important to find everything online, to be able to register companies online, and it's many things which you can do without going to those cabinets. Another thing which is for small countries, governments not easy to accept, but basically you are servants of people. So not you are the big boss where everybody should apply and get your permission to start the business or do this and that, but you should think how to make it easier. And third thing is to have more pride about your country, about your achievements, about what you have, because So I'm traveling to Moldova since 2016, where we started together with Horizon Capital and EBRD to explore investment into MAIB. And the one question I'm always asking, why there are so little tourists? And you know, it's maybe for the business, you know, can all the wineries, because they are competitors, they think that they are competitors, even if they are not, can all the wineries unite and create, you know, 1 week-long wine tour where you as EU tourist, the one thing you have to do, just come to the first meeting point, you know, and everything else is taken care of, because you have some unique products, and it's not enough that you know, one winery is included in Guinness World Records, and everybody, you know, who is a politician from foreign country has their photographs, you know, in there. So you have to work to show that the country is more diverse and has a lot to offer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plunsknis. I can tell you that indeed it was already proven that the current political leadership of the Republic of Moldova does have both the political will, the openness, and the result-oriented approach for reforms. On our side, as the business community, which is so widely represented today from the Republic of Moldova, I would like to mention that there are 3 words that we are looking for. That's expertise, that's drive, and that's results when we're speaking about EU candidacy agenda. And I'm sure that all together, in a bridge approach, we will manage to achieve to that moment that Mr. Laiba was saying, when we will get together and EU Moldova will become an EU member country. Dear audience, honorable guests, Your Excellency, Mr. Yanis Mazeiks, EU Ambassador of the Republic of Moldova, Mr. Dumitru Alaibu, the Chairman of the Economy, Budget and Finance Commission, Mr. Vitautas Plunsknis, EU Investor in the Republic in the region and Head of Private Equity from Invalda, we would like to thank you so much for participation at this extremely important event today, an extremely important discussion. We would like to wish all of us success, peace, and drive for reforms. Thank you so much, and allow us to congratulate the organizers and specifically MAIB, the EBA board member. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear speakers. We invite you to the next panel. We're discussing economic challenges. And I would like to have on the stage the moderator of the next panel, Mrs. Rafaela Tenconi, Senior Economist with the company. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. I would like to ask for my wonderful panelist members to come in. Ms. Angela Sachs, Head of EBRD Moldova, Mr. Vasile Tofan, Senior Partner at Horizon Capital. Vice Prime Minister Yuri Turcanu. And online Alberto Calei, Head of EIB Chisinau Office. Hi. Sorry for the change of location, but I thought for real dialogue that we need to be on the same level playing field. So, in this panel, we want to discuss opportunities and challenges about real growth and activity in Moldova. So let me ask a first round of questions to each one. Ms. Sachs, maybe let's start from you, since you are the biggest investor in Moldova. from the foreign side. Tell us about the EBRD engagement, what sectors you play in, and what are your plans going forward?
Hello? Hello? Yes, you can hear me. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you very much for organizing this event. This is a very important event, especially that it is initiated by our investee company, and there are many friendly faces here. Just quick correction, not the biggest investor, but the biggest institutional investor. EBRD has a very long-standing and deep relationship in Moldova, and we have been supporting the country since 1992. So, 30 years is a long time. We've had good days, not such good days as well, but we are still there. We have invested about just short of 2 billion euros. Which makes us the largest institutional investor in the country. And our projects during this period of time have been about 157 projects. Right now we have a portfolio of 700 million euro in 58 projects. The projects range from different sectors. I would highlight perhaps the financial institutions, infrastructure, energy, transport, green opportunities, private sector, businesses in sectors such as manufacturing and services, agribusiness, telecommunication, etc. There are some prohibited businesses that we don't invest in, but that's in most of the countries, in all of the countries of our operation, not only Moldova. So what do we focus on in Moldova? I would probably highlight the 4 directions. The first one is resilient financial sector. The second one would be green transition and sustainable infrastructure. The third one would be energy security. And the fourth one, of course, SME development and competitiveness of the private sector. We focus on these areas for investment, but we don't only invest, but we also support the projects with advisory services, especially to the SMEs. And we support the businesses with policy dialogue together with the authorities of the Republic of Moldova. What it means in practice is, for example, we have here present the Economic Council to the Prime Minister, which is hugely supported by EBRD, and they're advising the businesses, and they're a fantastic platform for the businesses to reach out to the government and vice versa. And they discuss all the problems and opportunities on that platform. Maybe I will go now into areas as to what our investments actually mean for the economy, because we do too much, a lot, I should say. And I don't think the time is enough to expand on all the areas, but maybe I will highlight what the achievements are in a few areas. First one, I can't not mention, the first one is the financial sector. In the financial sector, EBRD together with the IMF has helped the government of Moldova to make the banking sector transparent since the infamous fraud in 2014. Today, at the time when I arrived in Moldova, which was 4 years ago, we were only working with 2 banks in Moldova. Today, we are proudly working with 5 partner banks, and in 2 of them, we have equity investments. And these banks are catering to the communities and to the SME sector, which desperately needs finance to grow and sustain their development. Throughout that reform, the government has managed to establish a solid regulator. They have managed to bring in very good regulatory practices. The banks are I should say knowledgeable. I mean, they can talk for themselves. I know that they will be presenting in a few moments. And they can tell you what the benefits have been from this banking transformation. But they can probably also witness, they can confirm that it hasn't always been a very easy ride. But we're here today, and Moldova has made a huge achievement opening up the banking sector. Another area I'd like to focus on is the energy. Everybody who presented today has mentioned that one of the most pressing issues today in Moldova is the energy security. Energy security has been in the forefront of EBRD operations for many years, and it will be for the years to come. We have helped the country in 2019 crisis, and we're helping the country today as well. And we don't only come in when there is crisis, but we continue financing opportunities in diversifying the energy resources in Moldova. Today we have been supporting the government with this 300 million financing package, which our president mentioned in her opening speech, to diversify its supply from the traditional supplier, Gazprom. Because since 2019, there has been the risk of disconnection from that supplier for various reasons. At that time, it was discontinuation of the agreement between Russia and Ukraine, and today it's the war and political situations. So hopefully with this financing, the country can move away from the single supplier and can tap into the European markets through the interconnectors, which again EBRD has managed to finance with other partners. With Romania, we're financing electricity interconnector with Romania and also gas transmission interconnector with Romania. The last one, the gas interconnector, actually was critical last year for bringing in gas supply from the European hubs during the month of October. Two more areas I will mention, and then I will give the floor to my colleagues on the panel. The one to mention is the climate resilience. We are financing a lot of green initiatives in Moldova, and there are a lot of green initiatives. It's just at the moment we see that the awareness is lacking, but people are becoming much more aware. So our financing to date is estimated to have contributed to the reduction of about 137,000 tons of CO2. I'm not a technician in this field, so I like to translate it into my language. This equals to taking 30,000 cars off the streets of Moldova for 1 year. So every year when we are investing in this country, we are very, very climate conscious. And if we can continue doing this, and with the willingness of the government and the people and the financial institutions to focus on these areas, I think we can achieve quite a lot in Moldova. I can't not mention the SMEs. We do a lot for the SME support, and our advisory has created a lot of jobs, a lot of added revenues, but I will stop here. Otherwise, I could go on for 30 years.
Thank you, thank you. I have put all the panelists under a tight time schedule just to make sure you get all of the key ingredients of this growth story. Mr. Tofan, tell us about your experience about doing business in Moldova. Moldova scores very well in the World Business ranking, you know, ahead of some of the EU member states, actually. So why don't you tell us what has impressed you in the country and where are the areas of improvements?
Thank you, Rafaela, for having me here. And you know, we had a deal before starting this panel. I had a deal with Angela that in case she runs over, I can trade my minutes for a discount on my own EBRD debt. So, so on a serious note, it's really great to be here. It's a really a true privilege. I'll try to be concise. You know, the chairman of our investment committee, a gentleman called Jeff Neal, very accomplished gentleman. He ended his career as the chairman of global investment banking for Merrill Lynch. He's a Midwesterner from Chicago, and he likes to say, Vasily, let's get to the numbers. So I think when the question is what is an investor perspective of Moldova, I can share with you some, like all the returns on all the deals we did in Moldova. So we invested in a beer company, sold that to FS, made 2.5 times our money. Then we invested in Maip for the first time 20 years ago, made 3.6 times our money in 4 years. Then we invested in a fruit and vegetable processing company, Natur Bravo, made 3.7 times our money. Then we invested in Purcari, the winery, made 3.3 times our money. And that's the very representative list. We literally haven't had any dogs in Moldova, and I'm very proud, as a Moldovan myself, that Horizon Capital, which is investing in the broader emerging Europe region, has always managed to achieve good returns in the country. And in that sense, I think Moldova is a little bit of an unpolished gem, offering very attractive opportunities for those investors who have the appetite and who are ready to make the effort to discover it. The other question you were asking, investors are typically concerned about the business climate in these kind of markets. And again, when I feel like we have to do much better at educating the investor community in highlighting some of, I think, the advantages of Moldova. And as a smaller market, I have to give credit to the government for implementing reforms that have actually dramatically improved the ease of doing business in the country. So I think to many in the audience, it's going to be a surprise that the country ranks in the ease of doing business ranking. I know it has been discontinued, but we use the latest data available. It ranks just behind Belgium, Netherlands, and Slovakia, just behind, and ahead of countries like Croatia, Bulgaria, Hungary, Greece, Cyprus, and Romania are host today. So in that sense, I think we as investors, we did have had our moments, with authorities, but in general, we found it pretty easy to do business. In that sense, I think today's event that kicks off this process for eventually listing Maip on the Romanian Stock Exchange is a great opportunity for many more investors to discover the equity stories out of Moldova, and I very much hope that in May we'll be here celebrating, and ringing the bell at the Bucharest Stock Exchange for yet another IPO of a Moldovan company.
Excellent. Mr. Turcanu, you have the hardest job out there. Digital transformation is the most powerful force, we think, out there. For any country is an incredible opportunity, but it's also incredibly difficult. Digitalization is your mandate, and you've been working on it actually since 2015. So why don't you tell us a little bit, what is your focus now, what have you achieved, and what do you hope the private sector will gain from all of your efforts?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to stand in front of these people and to tell about our experience in digitalization and to try to convince them that we are on our way to become a digital nation together with Romania. And I would, answering to your question, Rafaela, I would say that we started from a very siloed approach to digitalization in principle. So the major achievement we made during these years, we have an alignment. We have alignment on technology side, we have alignment on approaches, on institutional arrangements, and because of that alignment, we succeed to build a digital ecosystem which helps us now to streamline the business processes and streamline public services we are delivering to people. What exactly that means? We started differently, and we are condemned to have this kind of out-of-the-box thinking. Being a small country, being a not very attractive country for the larger technology giants of this world, because of the small market, we still are playing an important role in digitalization of the society, and we are still trying to attack these giants. So the dialogue is completely different. So what we did, in fact, we didn't invest that much into a big and comprehensive strategy up front. We started to look pragmatically at things, and when a problem comes, we try to solve it technically, practically, institutionally, in the best way possible, with enough perspective to be reused, that solution to be reused. That way is we implemented a technology platform for the government, which is based on cloud computing, and at the time when different nations, even very developed countries, were talking about cloud computing in their governments, we were using it for a couple of years, and we were able to share our experience on practical use of this technology with other nations. When it comes to digital payments, and here our partner, which I'm very proud about, to be listed at the Bucharest Stock Exchange, we implemented a piece of art in terms of digital payments. We reinvented ourselves from payments perspective. Now we are not only collecting payments which we receive for public services. We are distributing all the payments, all the pensions, all the allowances. We are distributing them to the nation. And probably I would mention one more infrastructure, digital infrastructure, which is the cornerstone of all other reforms. That's the data exchange and interoperability infrastructure. Nothing happens now without data. So we have to have a reliable data exchange between institutions. And because of that, we now, since part of your question is what you are focusing now, we are now streamlining the services to simplify them, to let institutions exchange data behind the scenes, and not involve directly people, citizens, businesses, to bring one paper from one country and to bring it to another country. Also, what we are working on right now is we are trying to penetrate the digitalization agenda through all the administrative layers. So since our primary focus was on central public authorities so far, now we are working together with local communities, with local partners in such a way that they will become a part of digital service provision ecosystem. So in short, we are trying to reinvent ourselves in terms of interaction between the state and citizens, state and businesses, and to bring a new customer experience to people. An experience which will make them free of bureaucracy, free of any attached strings to institutions, to geographies, to locations, even to timing, because the public services we are delivering, the new model, new generation of public services we are delivering, they're accessible to everyone. Of course, we have some challenges, and here we are together to explore them and to work on them together, and every challenge is still a good opportunity because we used to work with private sector, and we are still counting on private sector to partner with the government in order to make every digital solution possible and rewardable to both parties. We tried to engage with Romania, and well, not only try, but we are committed to make good successes with Romania together, because the potential we have and this unique configuration of these both countries is absolutely indicating that we have to digitize together, we have to develop our nations together, and we have to stay competitive, and why not to become leaders, regional leaders at least, together. Business, I really encourage all the businesses in the Republic of Moldova to benefit from the programs the government launched for digitalization, and there are a couple of those, starting from small businesses and ending with formed and quite developed businesses on the technology side, on digitalization. I encourage them to contact us and to become our partner in those novelties and innovations we are working on right now. And we are encouraging them to come with their own ideas, to invite us as partners in this time to make their ideas a reality and to generate the profit they are so much counting on. Thank you once again for this opportunity, and I look forward to still to continue interacting with you and to enrich my networking, my network of contacts from here, from Romania, from companies, from businesses, from foundations, from investors as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker, digitally, Mr. Carlet. Why don't you tell us about the work that you're doing and the EIB is doing in terms of investment in infrastructure and other large projects in the country?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this invite, first of all, to be here with you today. I will just check, first of all, that you can hear me properly. Does the audio works? Great. Well, I will start by saying that the EIB started its activity in Moldova back in 2007, and by now we have built a portfolio of about 1 billion in total, comprising about 26 operations. As the EU Bank, as a policy-driven institution, with our operation, we try to implement what is the European Union policy target in our country's operation. This includes scaling up, indeed, energy efficiency, financing strategic infrastructure, supporting private sector, for example, SMEs. Looking at the billion of exposure that we have in Moldova, big picture would see that about 2/3 of this exposure is dedicated to public sector infrastructure and the remaining part to private sector support for small medium enterprises. A little bit more of a granular split of our exposure would see about half of the portfolio being dedicated to large transport infrastructure operations. So, namely rehabilitation of a key national road section included in a trans-European network have been supported. In the past, we've supported also the financing of trolleybus in the city of Chisinau. In addition to roads infrastructure, we are also supporting rail rehabilitation as much as we do for roads. We finance as well rolling stocks modernization. We do understand that the economic sustainability of Moldova and development depend on its connectivity with other European countries, and the extension of upgrade of the country transport network, rail and road, is essential in this respect. After the transport, another key sector of our support is for sure energy. We supported the energy interconnection of the country by financing strategic infrastructure like the gas pipeline that connect Ungheni Chisinau, therefore from Chisinau to the border with Romania. In the past, we financed the modernization of the Moldeletrica network. We have committed financing together with our partners for the electricity interconnection with Romania as well. And definitely we are an active player in energy efficiency. We signed as recent in December, and exactly this morning we signed a grant component related to the largest public sector energy efficiency operation in the country, whereby together with our colleagues from the EBRD and together with the EU, we are supporting the country to scale up the effort and the energy efficiency within the public sector. And now we will look forward to start with implementation of this project. Third key sector that perhaps I would mention is small medium enterprises. About a third of, as I said before, of our exposure is linked to that. The two flagship, if you wish, operations that we signed is in the past we supported the wineries of Moldova, which are probably the most well-known product of the agricultural sector of the country today, with a framework loan about 75 million, and we, after the success of this project, we top it up with a large program dedicated to SMEs in agriculture, which is still today in development, in implementation. Of course, we understand agriculture is a key sector for the country in terms of GDP, in terms of employment, especially when combined with food processing. Moldova has here great potential as well. The soil is, the ground is very fertile, as probably you know. The climate is very favorable for fertile, for successful plantations, and therefore we are strongly supporting this sector as well. These would be the three sectors of our activity. Of course, we are very committed to continue supporting Moldova as well in the future, and we definitely stand ready together with the European Union and our financing partners to continue with the implementation of what we already signed as well. As more in general, all our public sector operations are comprised of a blending in terms of financial support, whereby we co-finance all the strategic infrastructure together with our colleagues from the EBRD. All these operation benefits to a large degree, I would say, of support from technical assistance, grants, which we or our partner mobilized to make the whole package more attractive. Thank you. This would be my short introduction of our activities, I would say.
Great, thank you. So I hope you've caught a very good insight from all of the ingredients of growth in a country: the finance, the business environment, which underpins productivity, the digital infrastructure, which really, believe me, it is the most disruptive, positive transition that we're seeing, and Moldova really looks extremely well positioned, and of course then infrastructure and just improving connectivity. So let me ask a final round of questions to each panelist. Ms. Sachs, on the basis of your experience and everything that you've seen and you have achieved so far, would you say that you're quite confident that beyond the very near term, the next few months and the conflict and so on and so forth, but in general, sovereign credit risk in Moldova is going to come down in coming years, and the credit rating of the country is looking like it will probably improve over time?
The short answer is yes, but I will do a bit of a detour, okay? In EBRD, we're a demand-driven organization. Okay, we don't have a package, sort of financial package that we contribute this year, and then we can't go over that. Generally, the demand in Moldova for our projects and our intervention has been about 100 million or less euro per year. This year, EBRD is absolutely stepping up its investments, and we're looking into just under 400 million investments in this country, which is about 4% of the country's GDP. It's huge. I think it's a big statement as to how committed we are to help the country and how happy we are with the steps of the development that the government is taking despite the numerous crises that are thrown at the country. Do we hope that the credit rating will improve? We hope, yes. Do we know what's behind the corner? Unfortunately, I don't know. But we're doing everything that whatever the crisis is bringing now can be alleviated and the situation can be eased for the country, and they can focus on the development and the improvement for the consumers and for the population. One quick thing I want to mention, I mean, the Prime Minister mentioned about the crisis always bringing up opportunities. Yes, this is not the crisis that one should mention, but energy crisis has brought up some opportunities, and now the country is very actively looking into renewable energy resources, and we're helping them to unlock this. There are opportunities. There is need for investors to test the market. Yes, we have a different risk appetite, but we're there. So if there are doubts whether the market is fit for investments or not, please talk to us. If there are investors who are happy to look into Moldova, which is a land of opportunities and there is still a lot to be explored, we're there. We can help and we can be a partner going forward. So yes, we have optimism, but we're not blinded by this optimism. We're just going one step at a time and hoping that long-term safeguards will be put into place for this country.
Excellent. And Mr. Tolfan, you very openly shared how successful your investment were in Moldova. So I guess your core message is, okay, liquidity is not great in this country, but the return definitely pays off. Would you say that that is definitely the core message that you would want to give to the audience for the near term, and would you continue to invest in Moldova?
Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. I listed all the good investments we did, but we also missed on great investments. For example, I think the biggest miss of my life is failing to convince the owners of Endava to give us a stake in the company, and this turned into started in Moldova, expanded to Romania, and then turned into a company that reached a $9 billion market cap on New York Stock Exchange. So clearly, even from a small country like Moldova, you can have very big success stories. And we'll stay hungry, we'll stay foolish, keep looking for opportunities. Now we are investors in MAIB. I think we'll make a lot of money on this investment. So our investment committee is going to be happy. Thank you for the management team for doing all the work. We as investors plan to take all the credit.
Mr. Turcanu, you pointed out that digital experience was one of the focus that is driving you. So I guess for somebody that isn't necessarily experienced in Moldova, what could be a good place for them to really touch with hand all of the work that you're seeing? Because everything you've mentioned looks to me, first in class. But for somebody that has not seen it, has closed, what would be the best place to go to really get a feeling for your efforts?
That's really an interesting and difficult question to answer, because what we are trying to implement is an invisible government. The government which is not that obtrusive, and you will better not see it and its bureaucracy. So if we literally are looking for effects of digitalization and to try to understand how we can measure them, then probably it's good to say that because of the data exchange alone, data exchange infrastructure alone, we reduced the number of documents a business needs from 430 documents to 160. And we are still reducing those permissive acts, licenses to be issued, confirmative documents, and many others. So this is something digitalization tries to simplify instead of putting something additional you want to touch. If you really want to look at something, that's better. The best place to start with is your personal cabinet or personal virtual space, is where which is a convergence point of all the data, all the actions you can make in reaction to the change of that data. For instance, if you are a taxpayer and you didn't pay your taxes, that's the alert you receive there. If you are a driver and you want to make sure that you know about your penalty points, or you want to extend your technical inspection of your car, that's the starting point to start with. That's for regular citizens. As we have this personal space for regular citizens, if you have some businesses open it, then you see that your businesses, and you can manage your businesses, or at least to see some of your business data starting again from this your virtual space. So if you click on that, one item or a company, you can see the properties, you can see the fiscal status of the company, you can see the employees, your intellectual property, your digital certificates, you name it. So we have roughly 15 major data blocks which represent an entity from 15 different standpoints describing that particular entity. That would be the starting point to use. That's mcabinet.gov.md. That would be the one.
Fantastic. Thank you. And my last question to Mr. Carley, is there any realistic scenario in the near term that could really change the EIB's commitment to Moldova? I mean, if the world economy goes into recession, is that going to lower your appetite to invest?
Well, to answer the question, And we are actually a counter-cyclical organization. So usually we step up our activity when the world gets into a recession. So in a way, as we have done in the past, we usually step up our activity exactly in this kind of difficult situation. And this is what we'll definitely do. In the specific case of Moldova, we're very committed to continue supporting the country. The way I see it is that ultimately every crisis, no, how bad it can look, you always come with opportunities as well. Looking at again, always at our case of Moldova, back in 2004 when there was the wine embargo from Russia on import from Moldova, this was actually proved to be the trigger that has pushed the country to significantly improve quality, diversify export channel, and nowadays Moldova is known as an excellence in terms of quality and is exported in many more places rather than only Russia. So I tend to be overall positive, I would say, in this context. As we know, the country has done a remarkable job with the resources it had in managing the various crises which are stemming often in parallel with limited resources. It has found that itself that is actually not alone. The international community it's very supportive. The IFI, the IFIs, the EU, other donors are there to help. This could be an opportunity actually to essentially accelerate the developments on many fronts, also taking into account that the recent granting of EU candidate status. It could really function as a vehicle to continue enhancing trades between Moldova and the EU, continue with reforms, strengthen the rule of law, strengthen the energy security, and we are all working on that as well. And ultimately make Moldova a competitive place, able to attract foreign direct investment and make it even more the right place to invest.
Thank you to each one of the speakers to give us such an important insight on the country. Thank you all. I hope you come away from this panel really convinced that indeed Moldova has a very clear convergent path that notwithstanding the very near-term challenges, the outlook is extremely resilient. Thank you all.
Thank you very much once again. And thank you for your patience. We have the last but not the least panel and also closing remarks by Mr. Adrian Tănase, CEO of the Bucharest Stock Exchange in the end. And I'm inviting you to follow the doing business in Moldova part. And I would like to invite on the stage moderator, Mrs. Bayan Carter, Associate Director of EBRD, as well as representatives of MAIB, Mr. Gheorghe Shahidze, Mr. Bogdan Pleșuvescu, representative of Victoria Bank, Mr. Eugen Comendant, CEO of Purcar, and Mr. Bogdan Spuza, CEO of OTP Bank Moldova.
Good evening. Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen. This is the last panel of the day, so hopefully it will be short and quick, because I'm sure everyone is looking forward to Purcari wine tasting afterwards. There is something that unites all the companies represented by the panelists tonight. Do you have any ideas? The fact that I'm the one moderating this panel gives you a clue. EBRD is or has been an investor in all of these companies. So let me start with the present one. Bogdan Pleșuvescu is Victoria Bank, and EBRD has been an investor in Victoria Bank for over 20 years. But not only that, it has also been an investor in its parent, Banca Transilvania, for over 20 years. So we've been together through good times and through bad times. The next one is MAIB, Gheorghe Shahidze.
Together with our partners in Valda and Horizon Capital, we created a consortium and bought 41% in Maib in 2018. However, this was our second time investing in Maib, as we have been shareholders in the 19 for 7 years. I'm not going to disclose the returns as Vasil did, but they have been very good indeed. And the next one is Purkari. And you wonder that EBRD is not a registered shareholder, which is true. However, we are one of the investors in Horizon Capital Funds, which has invested in Purkari in 2020. And last but not least is OTP Moldova. But not many would remember that EBRD has supported the last stage of privatization of OTP back in the late 90s. And now OTP is operating in 10 countries outside of its native Hungary. It has gone through an acquisition drive, has been very active in M&A scene, and even last year was looking at Uzbekistan as one of the other countries that I cover, so I was watching that with great interest. But let's come back to Moldova. As has been already mentioned several times today, Moldova has been number 48 on the World Bank Doing Business report. Despite the controversy that is associated with that report, what I want to highlight is the fact that it has moved up quite a bit from 86th place 10 years ago, which already tells you how much the country has progressed. There's still a lot to do, and one of the areas that has been highlighted today by the Prime Minister is judicial reform and the reform of the court system that they're working on. Shall I start with Bogdan, OTP? Why did you decide to invest in Moldova in 2019 at the time when another investor, SocGen, decided to retreat from the market?
Okay, so thank you for inviting me here. At that moment I was not part of the bank, so I will tell you the legends and the stories and what I was told. So yes, OTP is, it is a long story behind. It is more than 30 years since OTP is part of Central Eastern Europe. And it has delivering on three areas that probably very few, if there is one, bank delivered in Central and Eastern Europe. One is stability. Being here for 30 years is a proof of this. Second is growth, and right now is present in 11 countries, and every year is buying another bank. In the last 20 years, OTP bought 20 banks. In some years more, in others less or none. And also in profitability, with a return on equity that is 15%. It is a standard, almost in the last years. This is on our shoulders as managers. It is a pressure, I can say. But delivering on these three is an imperative for the group. And they found that Moldova can be part of this story of delivering stability, growth and profitability for the group, and serving the clients in Central and Eastern Europe.
Okay, great, thank you. Georgi, I remember the very first time when we discussed this opportunity in Moldova, and you decided to take a break. You've done your homework, and I remember that you spread the numbers comparing your native Georgia, which is quite similar in size to Moldova, and other countries of the Soviet Union, and you came back saying, right, there is an opportunity, I can see the prospects of the country and the banking sector, and this is the position that you're willing to consider. So now that you are on the ground, how did your expectations of the time compare with the reality?
Indeed, that's a great question. About 1.5 years ago, when I was considering moving to Moldova, this is how I compared Moldova to Georgia, and then both countries are similar, more or less similar in size with the aspiration and so on. And I saw the number, like the loan to GDP in Moldova was around 20%, and loan to GDP in Georgia was around 70%, so more than 3 times. The Moldovan banking sector was very well capitalized, very liquid. The largest bank in Georgia that I worked for had the profit around $200 million, and the largest bank in Moldova that I was considering had the profit around $30 to $40 million. So clearly that represented a huge opportunity. We started huge transformation that we are going through right now, and I'd like to thank my IP team for hard work. The biggest transformation or the biggest change that we are doing is to put customer in the center, at the center, and ensure that everything we do, we have the customer's perspective as the biggest stakeholder. And we do transformation in so-called agile structure, whereby we are moving on from the traditional hierarchy, moving towards more agile structure, whereby the people close to customers take the decisions. And the results have been great. Only in SME loans we've been growing by 40% and supporting the economy to grow. But the opportunities are there. We just started to explore it. The loan to GDP is still very low. It's 23% plus. Mortgage loan to GDP is about 5% plus. So the investors who want to be part of the journey of the transformation of Moldova and leveraging the opportunities, MAIB is clearly a good case to explore.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Let's talk about the export opportunities. It's something that we already touched on today, and clearly Moldova has moved a long way from depending on one product, wine, and one country, Russia. So can you, Eugene, share us a story of success of Purcari, how it has transformed its export opportunity, and also what are the competitive advantages of Moldovan companies and products?
Thank you. Indeed, Purcari is, well, we've seen today many success stories from Moldova, and Purcari is one of them. As you mentioned, Purcari became the success story that it is today, not without any hurdles. And the hurdles that you mentioned were indeed the Russian embargoes of 2006, the Russian embargo of 2013 for Moldovan wines. This is the principle of hormesis. As we know it, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So we could say that that was probably an opportunity. First opportunity was that we had this challenge with the exports to countries such as Russia. The second opportunity was that even through maybe some political challenges, Moldova was able to have a free trade agreement with the EU. So that automatically has led the wine industry to refocus its direction and exports towards European Union. So, for example, today, Purcari as a group, and probably many of you know that Purcari has wineries, one of them which is Chateau Purcari, but also wineries in Romania, Crama Ceptura, maybe some of you know it. So Purcari nowadays is the largest exporter of bottled wine from Moldova, and let's say the share of exports to Russia is 0. Today, I stand here and I can proudly say that Purcari has gone through a difficult road, but we are one of, as I said, one of the success stories. We became publicly listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange in February 2018. We stand today with a solid business. We're able to provide, from a hub location such as Moldova, solid growth and solid margins. So, for example, even from the moment that we listed, we managed to grow our revenues by 75%. I think this is, from 2018 to today, this is quite a strong record. We're doing a CAGR of around 20%. We're sitting on a strong balance sheet, and in fact, all my colleagues here in the panel know us because Purcari is a customer of all of these banks, MAIB, Victoria Bank, and OTP. And I think we're a success story where we deliver both to our customers. I'll proudly say that Purcari has become the most awarded winery in the world in 2021. So this is a great achievement. So we're delivering to our customers, but we're also delivering to our investors. We are a consistent payer of dividends. We pay up to 50% share of our profits as dividends. We managed to get included in the FTSE Russell Global Index. And overall, we believe that we are a good investment for our investors.
Okay, thank you. in OTP Moldova, because it concentrates on the blue chip companies and you have a lot of corporates, what other sectors do you cover in terms of range of opportunities, range of exporters, and trends as well?
Is working? Yeah. Historically, the bank was focused on big companies and corporate companies. It was part of Societe Generale network, and at the time when the business environment was not very clean, then it kept only this segment in view, and a little bit of retail. But in the last 2-3 years, the company diversified, and one of the surprising sector that we see right now is export. And even these days, in the first half of the year, probably you've seen some numbers presented by Mrs. Prime Minister. The growth of export was 70%, which is outpacing the growth of import that was around 30%. And we've seen this as a proof of the competitiveness of the country. And also we experienced also in our transactions. So therefore we see the export and also importing companies, because there is a lot of regional trade that is made by other companies as a driving sector for the economy, and a very resilient one compared to other small companies that are more internally focused.
In Victoria Bank, when you see in your clients, and the war, of course, is a terrible one going on outside, but did you see the opportunities it created as well, or probably resolution of various issues that have been there for a while?
Yeah, indeed. So Victoria Bank, first of all, is my sole project, because 4.5 years ago when I took this challenge I was not so fortunate as Georgi was, but it's my successful project because we manage, in fact, the full team. We are there. We managed to do a full turnaround process and successful turnaround process for this bank. Not only from profit point of view, but cultural perspective, corporate governance perspective, and also NPL perspective. Think about that in 2018, Victoria Bank had like 35% NPL. Now we are below 9%. It's still big, but we have done a tremendous work to turn around this bank. So it was a different type of business we are doing in Moldova, but successful business at this moment of time. And the figures are showing that with passion, with involvement, you can do business in Moldova. And when we speak about resilience of our clients, yes, we can speak about resilient all over in Moldova, because we had a lot of political crisis. We had a lot of, let's say, scandals, like well-known stolen billion cases and so on. We had pandemic. Now we had the war on 24th of February. We had the inflation crisis on our shoulders. There might be, we don't know yet, but seems to be the energy crisis. So all these stress factors showed up that our clients managed to continue to do their business in Moldova, and not only to do business, but to be successful business like Porcaris, because they are great exporters, and they are resilient to these shock factors. And I'm always saying that whoever managed to get through these shocks over the years, as Eugen mentioned, they are stronger and stronger, and they are becoming stronger and stronger. And I'm glad to see them that they are expanding their businesses in Romania. Speaking about Romania, a part of ABA, which is mentioned here and is present here, I don't know if many Romanian investors knows, but there is a Romanian Investor Associations under the patronage of Ambassador of Romania in Republic of Moldova, who is also sustaining and supporting the Romanian investors knowing and understanding the market and managing to solve a lot of issues for the Romanian investors. And the most, let's say, the last intervention of them together with AmCham and ABA, it was the logistic support. So the support for for solving the logistic chain problem which occurred after the war, when the customs were stuck and a lot of queues were in the customs. So very much appreciation for the hard work of these associations in Moldova, business associations who managed to put together the politicians and the various authorities and the governmental bodies in order to solve this big issue.
I'd like to talk also about the labor market, because as we know, over 1 million of Moldovans live abroad. A lot of Moldovans have Romanian passports, which gives them opportunity to work anywhere in the EU. I'm a bit envious because obviously people in Britain no longer have that opportunity, and it's great for Moldovans, but it's not great for the employers who want to be able to hire professionals into their companies. Eugen, how did Purcari deal with that problem? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
This is indeed a problem, and probably, of course, not only for Purcari, for many companies in Moldova, but especially for us, since we are, a rural labor force heavy. So we're rural labor force intensive. You're mentioning that there are many Moldovans that are leaving Moldova that are going abroad. Well, they were for a period of time, during the more difficult times in the recent history of Moldova, there was a big outflow of people from villages into urban areas, and then from urban areas, I guess, abroad. There are certain legislative solutions that could be put in place. We are, through the business associations that we're part of, we are trying to lobby the certain changes that would facilitate perhaps an easier process of getting migrant workers in, or maybe to extend the type of contracts and the different type of hiring opportunities that we can give to the population. But overall, we are I would say we're quite positive. We have a positive outlook on the future. We are noticing many high-skilled people coming back to Moldova. This is encouraging, and for me, for example, even being present here today and listening to various highly ranked officials, both on the Romanian and Moldovan side, to hear again their very progressive and pro-European look and the commitment to positive change. This gives me an even stronger positive feeling of the future, and I hope also to the audience today. And we do believe that, we're speaking about the difficulties in the past years. There are many success stories that have become successful in those environments. Well, now that we have, a pro-European government, pro-European parliament, pro-European president, the environment has become even better for us to create even more success stories.
Thank you. Gheorghe, do you want to share your story in MAIB?
Yeah.
Do you want to share, what is going on in MAIB? What initiatives do you have there?
I think we have tons of initiatives, clearly, but I think they can be grouped into four areas. Again, the one I little bit tried to explain to answer the previous question, to put the customer at the center.
On the labor front, I mean.
Yeah, on the labor front. Yeah, I missed. Sorry. Labor front is quite difficult for us as for everyone in the country, especially when we speak about the people in IT sector, and of course, given the fact that Moldovans can easier get the European citizenship, makes this problem even more difficult. And that's why we are trying to somehow partner and engage with the universities in the country. Even this week we opened a lab with the ASEM, one of the leading universities in the country. We will be doing doing more so that we basically get the fresh graduates. We have initiatives to bring specialists from Ukraine, and I'd like to thank our team members from Ukraine who are strengthening various areas. So lots of initiatives to address the challenge.
Okay, great. Do you have the job fair as well?
Yes, we have a job fair tomorrow in the evening, and we are happy that we have this opportunity, and I hope that we'll find people tomorrow to explore with them opportunities with MAPE.
Great. The other area that I'd like to talk about is the refugees, right? Because there have been almost 500,000 of Ukrainians who have crossed the border with Moldova, and it is estimated that about 80 or 100,000 of them have stayed in the country so far. Is this potentially an opportunity to acquire new ideas, new skills, if the country will manage to integrate and to make them stay in the country? What do you think, Bogdan?
Yes, it is. Right now we are working with an IT company, by example, from Ukraine, and we've been working for 2 years. And 10 of their people came on site in our bank. All of them women, because men are not allowed to go over the border. But this kind of cooperation goes pretty well. Also, there is an OTP bank in Ukraine, and we are working closely with them in some projects. And this is quite an idea to share some IT people, because we are struggling to find also. But also one thing that we've done during the crisis of end of February, beginning of March, to arrange with our colleagues in OTP Ukraine to take or to give them the Ukrainian local currency, hryvnia, switching for euro or other currencies, because there were lots of people coming with this currency. Nobody wanted it, and it was almost impossible through the banking system to recycle it over the border. And we've done this during that period because of this sister bank that we had there. So there are plenty of opportunities with Ukraine, and this is a little bit of, as I'm talking to my Romanian former colleagues or friends, they consider Ukraine as a very dangerous place. But right now in Western Ukraine, the productivity and the production and the economic activity is much higher compared to before the war, because most of the people moved from the dangerous areas into the West. So there are no hotels, no places in hotels. All the bars, all the restaurants are full in Lvov or other cities in Western Ukraine. And there is a big trade between Western Ukraine and Moldova, because other trade routes are not possible technically. So yeah, with all the negatives with the war, there are also some positives that come from this situation, and Moldova may benefit out of them.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to digitalization that have already been touched upon in the previous panel, but it's something that we have all realized during COVID times, how important the technological innovation is and the ability to serve your customers online and use different channels. Bogdan, I understand Victoria is closely working on that area. What are your priorities and what are you working on now?
Before priorities, I have to say that we have a big challenge. And I'm very frankly and open saying that we as a bank, I don't know the other competitors, but our challenge is to keep the pace with the digitalization project of the government. So congratulations for the work you are doing. You are pushing a lot on us. So in order to do all the integrations and all the projects to to make the synergies between our core banking systems and our payment platforms with your the digitalization project. So big congratulations to you and your team for all the work you are doing. So indeed, the pandemic pushed us a lot. All of the sudden, we realized that we should be able to push for our project not to happen in 3 years, but in less than 1.5 months. Together with our digital guys and our IT colleagues, we managed to bring a lot of novelties into the Moldovan market. Of course, not invented by us, but which was transposed from Banca Transilvania, because we benefit from the know-how and knowledge and help of our colleagues in Banca Transilvania. Also, we're struggling a lot with getting rid of this paper-based work. So, as it was mentioned by Mr. Turcan here, it is extremely workload working on. So imagine that for hiring somebody, for dismissing somebody, you have to sign tons of papers. So we're fighting even to get rid of the stamps. So it was a huge fight with the custom, because we publicly announced that we give up to the stamps, and we only digitally signed the documentation, and we had clients coming to us complaining that they cannot export their goods because in the customs they are not recognizing our papers without the stamp, applicable stamp. So there are a lot of issues which happen, but together having dialogue through the business association, with the government, with all the people involved, we managed to get over. And I think that at this moment of time, I'm a Romanian, and I can say that in Moldova, in banking sector and in public sector, you can find more digitalized services than you can find in Romania. So in the last 2.5 years, a lot of investment has been done in this digitalization by the main banks, by the government, and access to the services, it's very, let's say, facile. The only things which is missing at this moment of time, and we have to work together with the government, it's to be able to have the online onboarding, and here it's a big project to be implemented, and here we are, let's say, several steps behind Romania, because online onboarding should be a service for the banks, and not only for the banks, but also for the governmental services, and face recognition and signatures, let's say certificate signatures should be a priority in my opinion.
Yes, I take these things for granted already in the UK, right? You can get registered, recognized. I don't remember the last time I've been in the bank for any reason at all. Bogdan, you wanted to add?
If I may, as a, how to say, comparison to Romania, you know, the Romanians are very proud of saying that sometimes there are some words that are not translatable in any, and we have such. It is called dosar cu șină. And okay. So please translate to people that don't know, but this is not translatable in Moldova also. They don't have this word.
Okay. I have to ask for translation afterwards, because I have no idea what it means either. Okay. Georgi, obviously we've seen a lot of changes in MAIB, from rebranding to the different look of the branches, but I'm sure there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that you'd like to share with us.
Yes, indeed, the bigger transformation is indeed in digital. First of all, I would like to echo Bogdan about the pace that the government is implementing the digital reforms. Well done, and this encourages us to do even more. And we too look forward to the digital KYC. I think the biggest initiative or biggest change we are doing even in digital front is to continue investing in people before we speak about the digital. And in this front, yesterday we actually announced that we launched the exciting program with the Stanford Graduate Business School to retrain about 60-hour middle managers with 8 weeks, so that basically we speak one language when we mean digital and so on. There are many initiatives that we have in digital space. Of course, they start with, you can group them maybe in 3 areas: the reliability and security together, functionality, which is super important, and user experience. And user experience is not the least. Maybe in some cases it is even more priority than the others. From user experience, intuitive, very easy usage menu perspective, we will have new app this year. We will have Face ID this year. This year we have already with our colleagues launched Apple Pay, Google Pay, and other quite exciting products. This year also we will have new mobile banking for our SME customers. But let's call them the traditional digital banking products. On top of it, what we are doing is that we are launching the ecosystems and marketplaces, and maybe you've seen that we launched Casa Hub, we've launched Drive Hub. Our ambition is that in digital space, when the customer or consumer decides to do anything, then MyIB is next to them. So that's a big transformation indeed.
Okay, great. You keep mentioning the government. Does that include the National Bank as well? Do you need any support from them? Or you can just deliver all the digitalization on your own?
Of course, we need their help because actually, so we've been implemented to this 2 months ago, the Know Your Customer Online. So we are able at this moment of time to do the Know Your Customer for our existing clients, not for the new clients. But the IML rules and should be somehow adapted in order to allow us to recognize that the Know Your Customer, which has been done by maybe another bank, can be also applicable to our bank when we do an online onboarding. But again, we see that lately all the governmental bodies in Moldova are very open to speak and to help and to come with ideas, to come with the solutions in such a way that to move forward. So there is nothing to complain about this. They are very supportive, and I'm sure that by the end of this year we'll find solutions.
Okay, great. I mean, we should really talk about the IPO, right? That's one of the reasons we are here. And I'd like to hear the experience of Purcari, because you've been listed for the last 4 years. What benefits and perhaps challenges these last 4 years brought to you?
Well, of course, any IPO has both sides, the challenges and the benefits. The benefits are clear, I guess, for the initial investors. In the case of Purcari, and this is also something Mr. Radu Hanga mentioned, that there are 2 types of IPOs. There are IPOs that are there to inject capital, and there are IPOs which deliver partial exit to the initial shareholders. For Purcari was the latter, and I guess besides the purely investment side of the positive things, you know, a fact that a company is listed on a Bucharest stock exchange, on a stock exchange, in our case the Bucharest Stock Exchange, brings a certain requirement for discipline, and the change and progress within the company gets pushed up in the internal agenda. And this is good because very often, you know, entrepreneurs are very much focused on the deliveries of today, while sometimes foregoing certain investments today into the way the company is being run that will give benefits in the future. And the presence on a stock exchange means that we also have an internal auditor. That internal auditor makes sure that we have the right governance and the right processes, and that we are internally a stable company. And this way also the investors can be assured that we are such a company. Of course, in our case, let's say the challenges are one which is probably, how can I say in English, maybe does not seem significant, but to us, because we are in quite a competitive environment, we need to know the balance between disclosure of numbers and figures to our investors so that they know how we run our business, but on the other hand, not disclose too much with our competitors, and not only competitors, but also our business partners do not take that as arguments to put pressure on us. But yeah, in any case, there's always the positives and the benefits, of course.
But always the discipline comes as a shock, because I have quite a few companies who went through the IPO experience, and afterwards the fact that they always have to think about the numbers and whether they reach their results or not, it really is something that you kind of need to get used to. And Georgi, obviously this is not something that is new to you. You have been a CFO and the head of the investor relations, so we used to see you in London all the time, because obviously TBC, where he used to be before, was one of our EBRD investments. How is the preparation for the listing going for MAIB?
Yes, MAIB is, I mean, each company has its maybe phases of evolution, right? So MAIB has been the largest bank for many years, and by the way, we should say thank you for Mr. Fortuna, Mrs. Vrabie, Mr. Mikulec for doing excellent job for MAIB. Now with the investment of EBRD, new investors, Horizon Capital involved, the upgrades and breakthroughs, I would say, across many areas, and the best-in-class corporate governance, I think MAIB is ready to go to the next level, to IPO. From the perspective of financial reporting and transparency, we are already there. This year we started to operate like we were already listed company. 2 months ago we released our Q2 numbers, even had a small investor call, and we are ready. The IPO decision is clearly subject to shareholder decisions and subject to decision of the respective approvals of the respective authorities, but we are as the company already ready. We have selected Bucharest Stock Exchange as our best venue, and we will be announcing soon our official decisions in this regard.
I remember when we invested, I was very proud of the lineup of our supervisory board, because we had 3 women on it. Unfortunately, no longer the case, but we're going to be working on it going forward. The question that I really like to ask during due diligence is if you have one wish, and obviously we're talking about doing business, right? One wish that would make doing business easier for you, what would that be? I'd like all the panelists to say what would their wish be. I mean, I'll start with Bogdan, just because you're the first one on the side.
Yeah, to be unprepared for the answer. Yes. Is to calm down the situation, the whole social and geopolitical situation to calm down, because if this is settled, then one of the surprises that I had in Moldova is the entrepreneurial spirit that exists at a level that probably is not in Romania, because people there are not used to get startup nation programs from government, money for free. This doesn't exist. So the entrepreneurs are really entrepreneurs. They are starting from zero, and they are having hurdles, and they struggle, and they succeed. I remember that when my son and my wife came into Chișinău, my son said, "Oh, you have Tucanu Cafe, nice city." And my wife said, "You have La Plăcinte restaurant." But both businesses started actually in Chișinău, and then they came to Bucharest here. So there is a spirit, an animal spirit, let's call it, that will make the country better. But if the situation calms down, probably this would be much easier.
Thank you, Eugen.
I have to say I'm very proud with the leadership that Moldova has at the moment. You've heard today Ms. Prime Minister, we've heard from Mr. Alaiba and Mr. Turcanu and other members of the government and the parliament. And, at the moment we're doing business the best way we can. what we know, what will help us is that if these people that have now taken on this role of a public figure and a leadership position in Moldova, that they just deliver what they started with, and they keep persevering and implement the reforms that they started to do. So far, I want to thank them for everything they're doing and to wish them lots of strength as they keep going and pushing through.
Thank you, Bogdan.
My wish is to be able to contribute more to increase of financial literacy of customers, of people in Moldova, because it sometimes is like a deja vu for me. It's relive again what happened in Romania several years ago, but I wish that all these turmoils and all these problems with inflation and energy crisis to be better understood from financial point of view by customers, governments, and generally speaking, people in Moldova, because these are not the effects of one political party, of one person. These are something which is globally happening, and we should all know that the effects of such crises are not only impacting people from Moldova or from Romania, it's affecting everywhere in the world. So I wish that this to contribute more to this financial literacy of the people in Moldova through educational programs or through trainings in order to better understand the effects of inflation, energy crisis, and so on.
Georgi.
It's a difficult question. I have one wishes, but I think if you pick one...
It's only one allowed, yes.
If you pick one, I think the biggest impact that Moldova, our customers, our team, Moldovan population can have is maybe accession of EU integration, and that will have tremendous opportunities for everyone, including us as management members and everyone as a potential investor. So that would be the biggest in my mind.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our panelists. We had a good discussion, and we can see that Moldova's investment outlook looks better now with a new reformist government. And of course, we wish for the end of the war so that the political outlook would improve as well. The country offers a lot of opportunities for the companies, especially the exporters. If we start from agriculture and the clothing and textiles manufacturing, then they benefit from the low labor cost, but also on the other side we have IT companies and automotive manufacturers which benefit from the good education of the local people. So hopefully there will be more national champions, and Purcari is not going to be the only one Moldovan company listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and hopefully we will, as investors, have an opportunity to buy these companies on different platforms, including Bucharest. Thank you very much.
If I may, before.
Sorry.
Because Purcari is probably the best wine, but there are lots of wineries there in Moldova, and believe us, we are 3 people to say 4, 5. Yeah, so there are lots of wineries, but and they may also like to list on the stock exchange. But sometimes Romanians are shooting in their foot, and there is a law, but not a law, somewhere a paragraph or something, that for the biggest investors in the country, it is forbidden to invest in alcohol companies. And the biggest investors are our beloved pension funds. So sometimes we have to think as Romanians how to do less harm to ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
We would like to continue with the closing remarks from Adrian Tănase, CEO of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Please, with applauses for the Bucharest Stock Exchange.
Good evening. I'm very honored to deliver this final speech. I would like to start with the final question of the previous panel. What is my wish in relation with this event? My wish is that my decision to list on the Bucharest Stock Exchange to be a success. Yes, I congratulate them for this decision. It's the most natural decision for this bank. We are very well prepared to help them and very committed to help them and to work together with the local authorities, Moldavian authorities, to make this deal a success, because this deal, I have just realized today, it's more than the deal itself, has a greater role in this context of Moldovan aspiration to the EU membership, because you have to introduce some, so Moldovan authorities should change some, do some regulatory changes to do this deal possible. Those changes being completely aligned with their convergence process to the European Union standards. So very happy to be and very honored as a stock exchange, as a representative of the stock exchange, to be involved in this project. And yes, very emotional, and we will propose a win-win situation for the both business community sides of the Prut River. Yes, because we will give access to our investors and foreign investors acting on the local market to the great potential of Republic of Moldova, and on the other side we will give access to the Moldovan citizens to the know-how and to our expertise into developing their business community, including the local capital market. We are very open to help the local capital market to develop. We are very open to, and I'm pretty sure with the local regulator, to help the local capital market to develop in terms of products as well, because the asset management products are missing. I think the pension products in Moldova are missing, and you are very, very open to enlarge the Moldavian regulation according with our experience. Again, yes, very optimistic about this building this capital bridge, which we are not building it from scratch. So there are many Romanian investments in Moldova already, and you have also Purcari listed on the first Moldovan company listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and I congratulate them again. And I'd like to invite you to have a glass of Purcari wine at the end of this event. Thank you very much, and congratulations everybody.
Thank you very much, Adrian Tănase. Just a final remark, and inviting all the speakers in front of us to thank you for such a nice bridge, a capital markets bridge, and a final group photo. If possible, all the speakers, with your applause, and in 5 minutes we have, of course, wine tasting. Thank you.
Moldova is a dynamic country of 2.9 million people on the EU border. It is an emerging economy that has grown by 4% annually in the last 10 years and still has a very high potential. Moldova has been building strong bridges with the EU and the world for the last 30+ years. Since 2014, Moldova has been part of the association agreement with the EU, guaranteeing virtually barrier-free trade with the bloc. In June 2022, Moldova became the official EU candidate country, a moment of immense pride for us all. Moldova has an open and well-regulated banking system. However, the penetration of banking services is low, with only 24.5% loans to GDP and only 4% mortgage loans to GDP, figure being among the lowest in the peer group. All this indicates significant potential for growth in the near future. MAIB is the preeminent leader of the Moldovan banking market, which is extending a new bridge to international capital markets. With its origins in the legacy agro-industrial bank, MAIB has 30+ years of history, along which it showed its high potential, resilience, and agility. Last year, MAIB went through a full-scale process of rebranding. In order to reflect the changing needs of the customers, MAIB launched an ambitious transformation that includes putting the customer at the center. We make sure that in all the decisions we make, customers are at the center of these decisions. We have changed the branch service model, refreshed our focus on customer experience, orchestrating digital ecosystems. Not only are we launching initiatives to be the indisputable leader in digital space as planned projects with Advehu and Face ID, as well as new design, but also we establish our place in various marketplace solutions moving towards the super app of MyHub. Supporting the country's entrepreneurs in 2022, we granted more loans in the SME segment than the rest of the industry combined, launching various new products and services such as Alto Premium offering, Gamma Junior, and continuing to develop our business relations with top partners like Perkari Winery, Krakova Winery, etc. To do all this, we have launched an ambitious agile transformation program. This will ensure that the decisions are taken into the teams that are close to the customers. We know that the ones who do it right are rewarded by the significant increase in customer experience, employee attractiveness, and time to market. We are already halfway through our retail and SME banking. We build towards listings on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. This way, we not only create access to the international capital markets and decrease our cost of capital, but also will be acting as the gateway to integrate Moldovan businesses into international capital markets. We endeavor to act as a bridge between the Moldovan economy and the international financial markets and open the country to the world. MyHub is building bridges which bring together our experience with our customers' needs and expectations in a continuously evolving world.